Call by value and call by reference are very important concepts in C++ functions. So let's understand them. In C++, functions can be invoked or called in two ways. These methods are call by value and call by reference. Let's understand them using an example. Imagine that you have a toy car and you are playing with it. Suddenly your friend arrives and he also wants to play with the same car. In this case, you have two options. Either you both share the same car, or you can bring a copy of your car and let your friend play with it. This concept is called as call by value, where you work with the copies of original value. In call by value, any change made to the copy will not affect the original value. So even if your friend repaints his car, it will not affect your car in any way. On the other hand, if you both share the same car, then any change that you make to your car will become permanent. And this concept is called as call by reference. So we have learned that in case of call by value, copies of actual parameters are created and then passed to the functions as formal parameters. Therefore, any changes made to the copies will remain with the copies only, and it will not affect the original values in any way. Let us understand the concept of call by value method using an example program. In this program, we will create a function called square by value that takes an integer x as parameter. We will pass the value of x using call by value method, and then we will see how this method affects the value of x. So let's begin by typing our function definition. One thing to keep in mind is that if you are defining your function before the main function itself, then there is no need to declare your function. So the return type of my function is void. Let's say the name of the function is square by value, which is written as one word, and then we will pass integer x as parameter to this function. And since this is the function definition, so we will have to type here a pair of curly braces, and inside these braces I am going to multiply the value of x with x. That means I am going to square the value of x and store the result back into x. So what I am doing in this statement is that suppose I pass 5 as the value of x, then 5 multiplied by 5 will give me 25, and I am storing this value of 25 back into x. That means after the execution of this statement, the new value of x will become 25 instead of 5. So I am going to display this value by typing here /n inside the function. The value is equal to, and then I will pass the name of the variable as x, and that's it. The function definition is now over. In the next step, I am going to define the main function, which is written as int main, and now inside the main function I am going to declare another variable called num. I will ask the user to enter the value of num, and this value when entered by the user will get stored in variable num. Once the user enters the value of num, I am going to display it on the screen by typing the original value is equal to, and then I will type the name of the variable num over here. So here, once we display the original value of num, then we are going to call the function square by value by passing num into it as actual argument. Now this value of num will become the new value of x. So here x will be equal to num, and then inside the function body this num will be squared and stored into x, and inside the function the value of x will be displayed. In the next line we will type /n outside the function the value is, and after this we will put here output operator and num, and then return 0. Let's remove this space, save this program as square by value and then run it. Here you can see enter the value of num. So let us suppose I enter here 5. Then the original value of num is 5 and inside the function this value gets squared and it becomes 25. Note that this squaring of value takes place on the copy of original value 5. Okay, not on the actual value. And that is the reason that outside the function the value still remains 5 and not 25. On the other hand, in case of call by reference, address or reference of actual parameters are passed to the functions as formal parameters. Therefore, no copies are created and any changes made are reflected in the original values. Let me now illustrate the concept of call by reference method using a simple C++ program. In this program, I am going to create a function called square by reference that takes an integer x by reference using the AND symbol. So, once again, we will begin by typing void as the return type, then the name of the function which is square by reference, and inside this function we are going to pass and x, which is the address of variable x, as parameter. This and x means that we are passing a reference of x as argument to this function. So whatever changes take place inside the function will get reflected at the original location of this variable and no copies will be created. So inside this function definition, once again I am going to multiply x with x and store the result back into x. Then here I will display inside the function the value is equal to, and once again I am going to display the variable x. Now comes the main function. So here we will type int main, and inside the main function I am going to declare variable num, and once again I will ask the user to enter the value of num, and whatever user enters will once again get stored in variable num. Then we will display the original value is equal to, and here we will type the name of the variable num. Subsequently, we will call our function square by reference by passing the value of num as argument to it. So when we call this function with num, it directly operates on the original value because this value of num will be copied over here. Then this value will be squared and the result will be printed in the next statement. In the next line, we will type here /n outside the function the value is, and here once again I put num, then return 0. Let's save this program as square by reference. Save and run. Enter the value of num. So I once again press 5 here. The original value is 5 which I just entered. Inside the function this value becomes 25 because it gets multiplied with itself, and outside the function again the value is 25, not 5 this time, because we are working on the actual memory location wherever this value 5 has been stored inside the computer. All the operations take place at that location and no copies are created, and as a result of it, after the function execution is over, the value which is changed by the function remains and the changes become permanent. So which method to choose? Well, knowing when to use call by value and call by reference depends on what you are trying to achieve in your program and whether you want changes made inside a function to affect the original data or not. Call by value method, which is the default method of passing arguments to a function, is used for simpler calculations, particularly related to primitive data types, whereas call by reference is more suitable while working with larger chunks of data such as arrays, as it avoids the overhead of making copies of large amounts of data.